You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody. Gail Kraft here from the Empowering Process podcast. And I have with me this amazing gentleman. I know I say amazing all the time, but this gentleman is amazing. Franco Romero. Franco Romero calls himself the Closet Spiritualist. He has come out of the closet, and so have I. He is the top 10 best-selling author. He's clairvoyant. He's a spiritual teacher. He has a book out right now called The Closet Spiritualist, and it's about his death and his resurrection, if you will, from his death, and his path to enlightenment. He also has another book that he's working on, which we will talk about later, but we're just going to have a conversation like we have been having before recording that we don't know where it's going to go. You don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to be fun. Franco, hello.
Whoa, hello. I mean, you're right. What a conversation we have had before. We literally had to, just for people who are tuning in, we literally had to say stop.
Right.
We got to just start recording this because this is amazing and delicious stuff that we're sharing. So yeah, hello.
So I'll kick it off with yes, we're talking on a spiritual level, but not one that you don't understand, because you'll understand everything that we have to say. And I'm going to give you an example because it's a story that we just stopped with, and that's the story of my daughter. Right? We didn't have the best mother-daughter relationship. I was the blame of all of her issues, and I do accept some of that responsibility. Now, we have been living together now 3 years. I moved in order to purchase a home with her so that she could be in a better environment to start making different choices in her life. Now, none of us start making different choices until we get kicked in the butt, right? I wasn't going to kick her in the butt, but she got the kick. And over the past, it's almost a year now, so I would say 8-9 months, she has grown exponentially to the point where I am in awe of what this woman can do now. And she will say things to me like, Mom, I know that this is, my past, and we'll talk a little bit about my exercise of staying in the now, right? But this is the past coming up. Am I looking at this because of my wounds, or am I looking at this because of where I want something to go, or am I in the now? Wow, isn't that powerful, right?
Yeah, it's where to begin? But you made a point right at the beginning, which I just want to echo it. Okay, what we are going to talk about, like you and I said, we have no clue as to where we're going with this, but it's been flowing so incredibly well that I know it's going to be some really delicious stuff. That word may be used a little bit too much, but I can't help it. It's just good stuff.
It is.
What you said at the beginning about how people are going to get this, they are. So I just, for those who are tuning in, and I want you to just, for now, for this next, 45 minutes to an hour, whatever, just suspend your belief systems. Just check them at the door, just for this one little period in time. Because if you can do that, what we're about to talk about is literally, and I say this in a very humbling way, it's going to change your life, because there's no way it can't. Now, that being said, we have a way, you and I, of being able to make this easy to understand, because somebody once said, you make this topic so contemporary, and it is. It really should be, right? It shouldn't be about all sorts of things that we were taught to believe as we were growing up, and based off of old contexts and belief systems. This is contemporary stuff because this is in the here and now. And what we were saying before we got on was that the reason, Gail, I didn't say this to you, but isn't it a coincidence that, or is it that she's having an extraordinary time in her life just around the time that you are just kicking it into high gear and having the most extraordinary time of your life? I just sit there and I'm going, wow, there is just no coincidence. And so for some folks, when I talk like this, I want people to know that I channel this energy called collective consciousness called Kayla. And so they're constantly chatting in my head.
Oh my God. Tell them you want one spokesperson.
Yeah. They were telling me, tell Gail. They were clapping their hands and saying, tell Gail, isn't it funny how it's happening precisely when she is having the most euphoric, joyous, delicious waking up of her life. And the reason that's important is because what we were saying beforehand, and this is going to be a bit difficult for some people to kind of grasp right now, but again, try to do your best to just leave those preconceived notions at the door. Everything that we deem to be our reality, whether it's the physical or the one that we live out in our head every single moment of our lives, everything is a creation of what you are doing in what we call the present moment of the now. It is literally right there. Now we hear that expression all the time.
Right.
We hear that expression.
Understand it.
Yeah. You're going, be present. Okay. And and so, good for us. We try. And so we try to be present in the littlest things. Smell the flowers, go outside and enjoy the day, listen to your partner, listen to yourself. Those are first baby steps to doing it, but those are also kind of like the harder steps to doing it, because we're focusing all of our attention on the things that are out there in the physical world, rather than listening to ourselves right at that moment before that moment was ever created. Okay, so there's an expression. I'm not going to get biblical here with people, but there's an expression in the Bible. And by the way, I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form. There's no religion when you cross over. In my near-death experience, that was completely like kiboshed right away. Okay, there's no religion. Okay, we are our own religion. Okay, we are our own spirituality. And so when I crossed over, everything was shown to me to be in the present moment. Everything was shown to me to be literally like this term in the biblical terms. Okay, before Abraham was, I am. And that term.
Shall I bring the Kabbalah out for you?
That?
I have the patterns on the trestle board.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
No.
That is, so I will say this. This is the truth about self. This is the Kabbalah.
Oh my gosh, I'm already getting chills and I don't even know what the hell you're going to say.
Okay. All the power that ever was or will be is in the now. That is here. I am a center of expression for the primal will of good, which internally creates and sustains the universe. This is a very powerful prayer. Through me, its unfailing wisdom takes form in thought and word.
All right. Let's peel this thing back. Okay.
Oh, okay, because there's 10. There's 10 steps.
Okay. I can't even get beyond 4 and I'm already. Yes. Now, listen, I want to take this back. I always try to take this back to the perspective of the people who are listening or watching this, because, right now they're watching two people just getting off on each other, right? They're just like, what are you guys, what's the matter with me?
I don't know, join the fun. Just join
the fun, right? But I also want to remind people that I've been in many of your shoes, okay, whomever you are. I have walked with a cross, metaphorically speaking, most of my life, and so have you, right? And yet here we are. Here we are to show people that there's something something else waiting for them. And guess what? You don't have to die to get there. Okay.
Yes.
So, oh, what you just said was so powerful. I was like, okay, they were like Caleb and company were just jumping off their seats. They were like, all right, all right, all right, all right. And the reason I should finish my point that the reason, so when people have near-death experiences, the vast majority of them come back with their heightened sense of extrasensory abilities, what we call our sixth senses. They come back with a really heightened sense of that. It's as if something was either pre-programmed or resequenced into their soul, and that's actually not metaphorical. It's actually true. And so when they come back, they know these things. And now they struggle, like I did, to try to explain them or even to say anything at all. But they come back with a sense. They typically have abilities to do everything from psychic abilities to clairvoyant abilities to astral projecting, you name it, it's all there. And you go, oh, that's cool. I mean, I don't think I want to die and come back to have that, but how, that's cool that you have it. I don't have it. No, we all have these abilities. Okay. We all have them. We just haven't had the circumstances by which to trigger them, but that's coming. So when I say, Caleb and company, this is what I came in with. I came in after my near-death experience, which I had when I was a very, very little boy. In fact, I was an infant. I came back with these clairvoyant abilities, and I came back with the ability to talk to this collective consciousness that really, it's so natural to me that it's intertwined now. It comes out fluidly like this.
Right.
They're constantly talking, and it's kind of like having a television in the background. You're always hearing the chatter. It's like a big chat room, and some of them are talking to me. Some of them are talking to you, Gail. Some of them are talking to the people that are listening to this podcast. We call that our intuition. Okay.
Right.
And most of the time we don't like to trust our intuition, but so it's like they're showing me this huge, massive room where people, they're being funny because they're putting on these old ear microphone sets like back in the 20s or 30s,
I mean, like this.
and they're just plugging in those little switchboard things and going, and they're connecting to each and every one of us at the same time. So I just happen to have had this connection since I was born, so it happens very naturally to me. So anyway, they're all saying, we got to stop her because this is just too much.
It's just so
Because
delicious. So
it's so
delicious.
delicious. I mean, a couple of them are rolling around on the floor. They're very playful. And we were talking about that in terms of the nature of this thing we call God being playful. And this is so critical. This is such a critical concept to embrace and become it, that when I coach people or talk to people like we're doing here now with you and others, I literally stop everything and say, look, you know what? I can tell you about all the metaphysical stuff and the paranormal stuff and all this and that. And I could really get off on all of these things. And you'll get some of that, but that's not important. That's not important to what we're doing here right now. Why you're here, Gail, touching people's lives, why I'm here touching people's lives, and why these people who are being touched will touch other people's lives as they go forward and remember. But that's it. They have to remember that the only thing that truly exists from a creation standpoint, and I have to, they're telling me I have to say this. Okay.
Okay.
So what they're saying, and we talked about this a little bit, Gail. We are literally people, everybody, remember, suspend your belief systems for now. Okay. Use your imagination and imagine yourself to be in the center of these two circles. Okay. So these two circles just barely overlap. All right. And you're right smack dab in that center. That's called a torus. And people know it as the infinity sign. There's all sorts of things that people relate it to. Okay. Just bear with me on this and just know that you're at the center of that. Okay. And that center is called the present moment of the now. Okay. That's not just a term. It's really describing where you exist every single moment that you exist in this physical reality. But here's the kicker. Okay. Here's what really you should be taking in and absorbing, because it changes your world instantaneously. You're not observing and reacting to what is around you. You are in that moment. Before Abraham was, I am. You're in that moment before any other moment is created. You are there as the spiritual essence creating the moment that you call the now. And you're doing that boom, 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 boom,
It's
boom, boom, boom,
it's a
boom, boom, boom,
constant
boom,
thing.
boom, boom.
So,
It's trillions of this happening in any given moment. That's the power you have.
and so here's what I tell people now about being in the now,
Yes.
right? So you're feeling something. Don't name it. The second that you say, I feel angry, you have these little folders in your brain and you go, oh, I have a folder that says anger. Let me get that folder. I'm going to pull this out. And here's how I behave when I'm angry.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Oh, all right. Go ahead.
Gail.
Yes.
Okay. I hope people basically have given up their afternoon, or we might be here for a long time. Okay, so in the book, I try to describe this as best I can, and they were showing me how to visualize this in a way that it's not to make sense of it. It's really how it works. Okay, so in this thing we call the now. Okay, this what we would in a linear term call this present moment. Okay, this one, 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 this one. You literally, when you have a thought, and there was a term in that prayer that says that you're the center of the universe. Okay,
Yep.
That is exactly where you stand in your spiritual sense. You are literally in the spiritual world, what some people would call heaven. In the spiritual world, that is exactly where you're standing. That's the center point of those two circles. Boom. And in that center, when you have a thought and then you express it in a feeling, or okay, and then you take just the tiniest action, it could be a mental action, it could be a physical action around it, you have just created instantaneously. You literally, and this is how they showed me when I went into this thing called the Akashic Records, you literally have trillions of, they showed it to me as film strips of different parallel universes, realities. You can call it a folder. That's what triggered this.
Yep.
But as soon as you have that thought, as soon as you have that thought, you immediately have a feeling to it, and you immediately emote that, and you immediately pull that folder down, and you go, this is now my parallel reality. You are literally jumping from parallel reality to parallel. And you, I got to keep stressing this, you are the one creating it.
Right. And so I tell people to not name their feeling. I don't want to name, but I do want you to identify a description of it. Where is it in your body? What does it feel? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it sharp? Right. Start defining and describing it. And I have watched people, when they do actually do that, go from to a relaxed position, because they realize that it's not real.
I was just going to say, give me that word. Give me that word. I want to hear it.
It's delicious to let it go.
It's delicious to let it go. And okay, again, what's really interesting about the people that are tuning into this now or tomorrow or next week or next month is that there is a reason why you're tuning into this. Okay. And whether you know it or not, everything that Gail and I are talking about here are literally are like little codes being implanted into your spiritual and physical beingness. Okay. And one day when you're not expecting it, you're going to go, whoa, aha, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it's going to make more sense for some of you. And even right now, there are people that are going to be watching this and going, wow, I'm not sure why, but I'm kind of getting this. This is making sense to me. And that's why we're having this discussion. It's to help you slowly become aware of what is your true self.
Absolutely. Franco, 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago, I started coaching. And I had my first presentation, and I gave it in this place. It was called the Boardroom, and it was about change. And I was not aware. I was aware the life world was changing. I could feel change was happening. And I just literally go with the flow. I stood in front of this first audience and I said, the only reality is the reality that I project from my eyes. I am the only person who can change what is going on. I am the one who gets to choose what happens. So I am the center of my universe.
And it comes full circle, right?
Right. And it comes full circle, right?
And you were probably saying it from a point where you were aware of the words you were using, but you didn't really quite at that point yet understand the magnitude of what was coming out of your mouth.
Seriously.
And that's why, again, I just, they are constantly, they're just chirping in my ear. They want us to keep reinforcing these subtle but yet incredibly powerful terms and concepts that we're talking about here, because they're not terms and concepts. Those are just very generic ways of us being able to label them. We have been socially conditioned. And so the first part of my book, I talk about the what I call the outer journey and the inner quest. Okay. And the outer journey is this so it's based on everything that we inherited when we were born. Okay. And I do mean that we inherited it, because each and every one of us, when we're in our mother's womb, we are incredibly tuned in to source, to God. Okay. We're there most of the time. We kind of come in and out and into this tiny little body that's evolving in her stomach. But we're literally way more on the other side. But unfortunately, what happens is that we're so tuned in that we pick up, like a radio wave, we pick up everything that our environment is picking up. So if we have trauma going on in our environment, meaning our mother, and she is picking up trauma up around her, or even in the DNA coding of the connection of the two, our father's sperm and whatnot, we're going to inherit that. Right. Now, that's not just esoteric mumbo jumbo. This is actually now being studied, because there is a lot of sense to it.
It's so true. And Franco, the Bible says the sins of the fathers 7 generations back. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I've got to tell you this. Okay, another moment. I'm having a moment here, people. Okay. I'm getting chills. By the way, people, Gail and I have just met like what, a month ago, but yeah. I know we have had many lives together.
We had to have.
And it's just like you're unfortunately or fortunately, you're the victim of watching two people getting caught up on where you've been all your life. I haven't seen you in a while. So sit back, have some coffee, drink some wine, do whatever.
Enjoy the conversation.
Enjoy the conversation, because it really is, that's what it is. But well, yes. So I want to stress again, neither of us, I haven't asked you, but I will tell you for myself, I am not religious in any way. My spiritual belief systems, in fact, one of the things I was shown to me early on by one of my guides, my master guides, was that one of my guides is a spiritual being energy called Babaji. And Babaji is a very, very, very old Hindu energy, a god, not a god, but a master that walked the Himalayas. Okay. I don't know anything about Hinduism, but I don't have to. I just know it, because whatever is truth comes through, and that's it. And truth can come through there's truth and there's a subtle reference to it in the book. The truth comes in any way, shape, or size, and it can come in any perspective. And all religions have that truth. They have just distorted it.
Right.
And so I say this again, because normally I don't get into all of this background stuff, but I want people to understand, we are not, you and I might be referencing biblical stuff, but we're just, in a sense, those things are just being downloaded to us and we're being told, say this,
right,
say this, because
my point is that we've known this since the beginning of time.
Since the beginning of time, since the beginning of this earth school. And that could get into somewhere else, but I want to talk about what you just said, the sins of the father. I've only heard that term once or twice, and I think it was in a movie. All right. But how true that is the Bible and all sacred books, I want to repeat that, all sacred books that have ever existed today have these types of clues in them.
Right.
They were meant that what Caleb calls them, this consciousness that I connect with, what Caleb calls them, they're called mind capsules.
Okay.
They are like, we all know time capsules. You go and you bury something, and then 50 years from now you dig it up, and voila, you have a little bit of something that was in the past, so to speak. And it reminds you, it tells you something, a story, right? So mind capsules are all of these little sort of mental consciousness, little treasures that have been buried throughout the course of human history. And those terms are little terms. I remember I told you before, every word you use is a frequency. So it's a code, and it basically is triggering something. If you're vibing with it, it's going to trigger a remembering. So you just blew my circuit board, okay? because you just hit it right on the nail. Our empathic abilities are so powerful before and during and just shortly after birth that we inherit the sins of the father, the mother, the world.
Right.
We inherit it, and we don't know why we inherit it. And I know that you know this from just your coaching and your teaching and stuff. You get people, they go, I have no freaking idea where I am getting this fear from. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't remember anything in my history that says, okay, that's where it came from.
Right.
Because most of what we fear actually is embedded in the past of other generations that came in through this genetic coding we call conception.
Well, that and past lives. So when I
Yes.
do Akashic Records reading, I'm looking at past lives. I can always tell one story. Okay, so there are so many stories, but I'll give a story of a reading that I did versus a book that I read. I had a woman, she came to work with me for whatever reasons, and I did her reading. And yeah, so who are you as of God's creation? What's the gift that you were given? How has your character developed? And what are the blocks and restrictions from past lives you're still hanging on to energetically?
Yeah. And you know what? You are absolutely correct. Now, here's how past lives work with what I just said. So when we come so for the last 8,000 or 9,000 years, all right, humanity has been experiencing this Earth school, all right? And I'm really trying to keep it contemporary and still try to keep some context so people can relate to this within what they were taught to believe, okay? But for most of that time, we were here to experience what some religions would call the karmic reaction of our past, okay? And the purpose for that was not to learn as much as to remember. Now we're always told it's to learn something, to learn our lesson. No. It's to remember that the lesson was never really there to learn. It was just there to remember that you've already overcome it, because none of this is real. Okay.
Right.
But regardless of the term you want to use, learn or remember, our purpose for doing that was not only to remember it, but also to create what we call desires. Okay. And that's desires are emotions. All right. They're based off an emotion. All right. And in this particular case, desires are based on love. All right. When you desire something, it's 99.999. It's 100% love based. Okay. When you feel something, oftentimes it's fear based. Okay. But all right. So you're desiring something. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky. For the last 8,000 years or so of this Earth School, we've been doing this for the purpose of feeling contrast so that we could desire something that we're not getting in this physical world. Why? Because when we do that, we are not just expanding the universe physically, but we're expanding consciousness
Right.
metaphysically.
We're here for expansion. Abraham Hicks tells you that all the time.
All the time. But people, but I want to really try to give them a visual of
So
what
they
that
understand
means.
it. Yes.
Yeah. So God, I'm going to use that term extremely loosely. We talked about that before we got on. We don't need to get there. But God wants to expand. It wants to expand so that when we die and we go into this thing loosely, we call heaven on earth. I mean, heaven, excuse me, not on earth, but heaven. When we go to this place called heaven, nirvana, okay, we live. One of the things that some people say when they come back from their near-death experience, and some things that are referenced in a lot of these sacred books, is that we live in a utopic reality, okay, once we pass on. That utopic reality is based on the trillions of desires that you created while you were in this physical body, as well as many of the desires that everybody else has created. So why the hell is it utopic? Because you've spent your whole lifetime creating the most utopic environment that you get to go to once you're done here.
Right.
But now this is where it gets really interesting, okay? And it does get delicious and it gets really juicy, because now what we're here to do, and this is talked about in the book, is that we're not focusing on the journey, okay? We're not focusing on the outside stuff. We're not focusing on everything that's beating us down supposedly in the physical, okay? What we have to do is go inward into the quest, because the quest is about discovery. It's about remembering. It's about knowing who you have always been. Because when you do that, when you realize who you really are, the game is over.
I was going to say it is a game changer.
It is a game changer, and it is, but it's over. In the book, we talk about, and this is a really a weak thing, we talk about how the game flips from upside down, which is where it's at right now. Why nobody can make sense of this world, okay? It's because we're being programmed right now in this present moment. Why we're all here experiencing this physical reality right here, right now, is because there is an ascension, an awakening, a graduation to the reality that we are much greater than who we are. And none of this physical stuff makes sense, because it doesn't. We have to flip it right side up again. And when you flip it right side up again, then you get to expand the game, the metaphysical and literal game that you're living in the way you want to as a creator. You become a creator. And I always tell people this. Okay, I always tell people that if today you're walking down the street and all of a sudden the clouds part and this beam of light comes right down on you, and these angels come down and all these angelic beings come down, and you hear this voice, okay, tell you exactly what we're saying, you and I are saying right now, okay? You'd sit there and you go, ah, your hair would probably turn gray, like, like in biblical sense, and you go, ah, and your life would be forever changed,
Right.
because you will have remembered something about who you really are, and you can never ever. It's like taking the red pill. You can't. It's like the red pill in the Matrix. You can't forget it.
Right.
So what I tell people is like, okay, if you can buy into that, why can't you buy into the fact that right now, at this very moment, there are people who are being touched in different ways? A lot of them are NDE people, but a lot of them are just people that are channeling now and people that are talking to higher consciousness. Why can't you believe what's coming out of their mouths when hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands, are now saying the same story from every walk of life, especially those who came through a near-death experience, because they literally did go there, come back, and are now present here telling the story.
Right.
And yet, as humanity, we don't have the ability yet to say, whoa, oh, okay, but it's getting there, and we're really just around the corner from it. So yeah.
Franco, I have a friend who she travels around in her RV, and I just adore her lifestyle. And she was at, is it Devil's Mountain? The mountain that was in Close Encounters.
Oh, shut up. I was just there.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my
I
God. All
can't
right.
get, I can't, I don't want to go there because it's one of the most spiritual places you can go, but I was just
Oh,
there.
I literally said to her, if you hear music, call me. I'm coming. Right. So I would run to that light.
Oh man. Oh
Yeah,
man. Oh, yeah, I was just there a couple months ago. It is a very sacred place to me. It's a very sacred place to all of humanity.
right.
You don't have to go to the Egyptian pyramids, although I do. You don't have to go down to Central America or South America to Peru and all
We've got
that
it
stuff.
right here.
You've got it right here. But the Devil's Mountain, which actually has a different name to it in spiritual terms and with the indigenous people. And I could just tell you just a little sidebar note. This is exactly how the game of contrast works for people, is that everything that makes sense is given a different interpretation
Right.
to throw you off the path, to just take you off path so that you don't get it right away. Because if you did, then game over. There's no reason to be here anymore.
Right.
So Devil's Mountain, there's another place in South Dakota, because I'm in the Twin Cities. There's another place in South Dakota, and several places actually, called Bear Butte Mountain. Incredible for people who want to go. Just as powerful, just as spiritual as Sedona or any of those places in the south.
Just kill me with Sedona. I mean, I have some, and we won't do this because I have some miracle
Yeah,
stories to talk to you
I
about
know.
Sedona and the desert. It's just, and guys, if you have a chance to take a road trip across this country, just do it. I'm telling you, I've done twice, right?
Oh wait,
And right, and when you come to the Tetons, when you come across around the corner, the Tetons literally jump in your face, and you've arrived.
and you know what? Gail, stop doing this. All right, you're using you're hitting me with these words that are just triggering things. Road trip, okay, road trip. All right. I'll be really short about this. I have a very good friend of mine who is not at this point yet is spiritual.
Right.
Okay. And he's Jewish by upbringing. And he really was. This was towards the end of like what the COVID period, where we were able to finally start coming out and
Right.
experiencing stuff out in the outside. And I said, look, you got to go. You're driving me crazy. I can't even work with you right now. You got to go. I mean, that's what they were telling me to tell him. You got to get in the car and just go. Where you go, don't
Doesn't
care.
matter.
Doesn't
No.
matter. He got in the car, and I'll make this really short, but it is one of the most powerful stories I've ever heard. And I'll have to share it at some other time, because I don't want to I want to do justice to it. But he went to oh man, I'll hopefully remember the park. It's a national park.
Yellowstone.
It's down in the Four Corners by Arizona, New Mexico.
Oh,
It'll come to me. It'll come to
okay.
me
All
in the
right.
past, and I'll share it to
But he's out in the desert.
he went to this park. He was just going there because he felt the need to go to this one specific area, and then he found this park and he said, okay, I've always wanted to kind of go there for some reason. Oh boy, the spiritual experience he had was absolutely on the category of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It wasn't with ETs, but it might as well have been. Okay.
Right.
It was so profound that he came back literally within about a week after he did that trip. He was so he was so spiritually, like, emotionally, it was like trying to grasp all this, that he couldn't come home right away. He had to
Right.
take another week. When he came back, he tried to hold that story to himself. Like you and I were talking about how we were trying to hold our stories
Right.
back.
Because of what people would say.
Exactly.
Right.
But one night he calls me and he leaves me a message like at 2 a.m. And I'm like, I am a night owl, but I'm not going to call you back at 2 a.m. And And I woke up the next morning and I listened to his message, and he said, I got to talk. I got to talk because I went to this place and it was so amazing. And here's what happened. And I sat there, and I have seen a lot, and I've experienced a lot, and I've been blessed and been fortunate to do that. But I still went, I was like, my mouth was open and going, oh, yeah, oh. And so when you just said a few minutes ago, get in the car, take that trip. Not only are you going to go on a journey, but if the stars are right and you let it come in, you're going to go on such an amazing quest that it will forever change your life. He has literally been a different person. You might as well have said he spoke to God, because in some sense he did. And he is now completely different person. And it was because of this trip he had to take. He
And
didn't.
if nothing else, Franco, I mean, for me, so I do it alone. I sing and I cry and I yell and I whisper. I have breakthrough after breakthrough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to take that inner quest, folks. Here's the thing, okay? And in months to come, I know Gail and I are going to get to know you really well. You're going to get to know Gail's story. You probably won't know me much, because I don't know when Gail will invite me again. And,
Well,
but
we'll talk again for sure.
But here's the thing, okay? The only way that you're going to wake up to the reality that you can change your life instantaneously. Now, I'm not going to say in all cases you're going to have this so enormous aha moment like my friend did, but you will change in terms of a span of time very quickly. The only way you're going to do that is by going inwardly. So here are the three things, if I may, Gail,
Yes, please do.
that I tell people that were given to me sort of as the basis by which to begin all of our quests. There are three sort of concepts, principles that you have to at least try to embrace, okay? The more you embrace them, the easier this is going to be, okay? Number one, you are God, okay? You have to start embracing that. You are an aspect of God. You have everything in you, genetically, spiritually, etherically, you name it, that this thing you have been praying to all your life has. Therefore, you have all of the very same essence and ability to create. You have that. You have to really embrace that. And there are visual imagery things that you will have to do to help you, okay? Because just concept wise, there are a lot of you that are going to say, yeah, I've always kind of been thinking that, but I'm not. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that, Franco. I get that.
Right.
But it's not about getting it.
It's internalizing it.
It's internalizing it to the point that you become it. And that's not walking around and telling people, hey, I'm God. Hey, I'm God. I mean, you could if that helps you, but it's about really embracing the fact, because this is what was shown to me when I crossed over. And why I was telling you before we got on, there's no hierarchy. Because I said, where are all, where's this, where are the councils and stuff that I visualized? And they all laughed at me and they said, you are God. We're God. We're all the same. There's nothing different about you and about us. When you can actually become that, okay? But that means you got to stop where you're at, go back to that prayer that you had. And by the way, that's a prayer that you should publish to people, because that prayer, in one of the first points, it says, it's basically saying you are at the center of all of this.
Yep.
What they told me when I died is that we are all at the center of our own realities. They all come together like an incredible, masterful virtual reality game, but you are the center of it. But you have to, number one, you have to embrace the fact that you are God. Okay, that throws pretty much 99.99999% of everything that you have ever believed out the door. Okay. Second thing you have to realize, okay, and embrace it. And again, when I work with people, I work with them to help them to get to these points very simple remembering things that they have to just go through, not techniques. I don't like to really use techniques because that's a lot of human doingness and
Right.
not a lot of human beingness. Okay.
Right.
This is all about remembering. All I'm doing is just getting the anesthesia out of you and helping you to remember what you already know. Okay. The second thing is that you are experiencing all of this. You're creating it, mind you. You're experiencing all of this, every single bit of it, as a simulation of your consciousness. This is a hologram. This is a hologram. And you are not just participating in it, you have created it.
So you are the author, you are the director, you are the actor in the movie in the theater that you're sitting in.
Yeah. In the book, in my book, there is Caleb goes into this 2 or 3 times in different parts of the book, but you are, just like you said, you are the observer. You're there watching the movie. You are there in the movie. You are acting the movie. You have written the movie. You have directed the movie. You have done the production of the movie. You're all of it. The key is when we get further down a little bit, and this gets back to the point number 1, okay, is that when you're a God and when you can start to lucidly remember that awareness when you're doing what we're doing right now, living in every moment of this physical reality, when you can start lucidly looking at the world from the perspective of you being this incredible energy of godliness, things change. They have to. The law of the universe has to comply with it. The law of attraction is based on the law of resonance, and the law of resonance is based on the law of awareness. And if you do not do that, and in my next book that I'm writing, I am walking through that process with people, because there's a whole entire chapter about awareness that goes way beyond what we think is what we should be aware of. You know, it's great to know, smell the roses and stuff, but when you can actually smell it and know that you are the smell and you are the roses, and that everything that you're doing is something you're creating, and you can actually observe yourself observing that, that's what every great master has done. That's what every great man or woman, great master that's ever walked this world has always tried to tell us. Even in being a Catholic, grew up as a Catholic, even in the biblical sense, Christ did the same thing. He kept trying to tell people, yo, it's nice that you follow me, but that's not the point here.
Right.
You are all God's. And he said that. He said, he said something like, hey, isn't it written in your old books, you are all God's? He goes, something like, I tell you this, someday you guys are going to do what I'm doing.
Right.
And you're going to do more of it. And I'm sitting there as a kid going, why does this make sense? So that's number 2. You're all living in a holographic game. And the thing that drives me a little bit nuts, I have to believe, this is my 3rd dimensional side coming out of me, is when people go, oh, I get that. And I go, don't you want to know how to play it?
Right.
I mean, we're all kids, right? And when we sit down and we play games, you don't just sit there and open up a board game, or you open up, one of these digital virtual games. You don't sit there and go, okay, it's a game. You want to know how to play it.
Right. You want to be engaged in it.
How to be engaged in. You want to know all the tricks and the trades, all the things that make this game magical. How to beat the game. How to become so good at it that you go, move on. It's time to go to another game.
I'm next for the next level, right?
Next to the next level, exactly. Yep. Which is what we're doing now in this second part of our Earth School, okay? Right. Is that we're now at this level where we all know it. We all know it, whether you consciously know it or not. But I know there are a lot of people going, whoa, man, this is really, we know it, but it's not good enough to know it anymore, to graduate, to ascend, to awake, to get into this 5th dimensional energy that's coming in, which is massive, about knowing yourself as God. The only way you could tap into it is like, catch-22, a chicken and an egg. You have to know it enough to have so much faith in yourself to be able to wake yourself up and go, oh, this is a game. I am God. I can manipulate this the way I want to, because all of this, Gail, was shown to me on the other side. all of this. And I'm not the only one that's saying this.
Absolutely not. And Franco, before we recorded, Franco and I were talking, and one of the things I said to him was just the other day, the truth of me being the projector of my reality really hit home.
Yes.
I was like, whoa, really?
It's a whoa moment, isn't it?
Oh my God. It was, yes. Oh my goodness. Whatever. I know. Oh me. Not oh my God. Oh my me.
Oh
Right?
my me.
Oh my me.
It's incredible
Yeah.
when you get that aha moment. And again, that's just the aha moment. Now, in order to ascend, to awaken, to fully be who you always have been, which is what I tell people, God, playing a game, you have to know how to become it.
Right.
You have to remember. And again, it's not a lot of human doingness. It's a lot of human beingness. It's just literally, you've heard these terms before. Even Abraham says it a lot. Abraham Hicks. You have to surrender to it. But people don't understand. What does it mean to surrender? What do you mean? What do I mean? And surrender is just finally going,
Wow. I don't have to struggle. I just have to play.
Yes, I am. I just simply am.
Yeah.
Okay, third point. And so these are the three, the trilogy. All right. The third thing that you have to embrace, it. Okay. Is the fact that the only reason you are here, and I think I told you this the very first time we talked, the only reason you are here is to wake up. That's it. Right. Now, hey, wait a minute. What about my purpose and all that? Well, slow down here, right? Once you wake up, you remember why you came here, right? For what purpose you came here. And then you can go about doing it.
And go play and have fun doing it.
Go play and have fun doing it. All right.
Right. And so the difference, Franco, from if I can bring this down a little bit for folks, from my perspective.
Yeah, no, go for
it. Right. Is simply this, that we have this third dimensional awareness. So, and that's time and space.
Yes. Everything on the outside of our world.
Right. Everything on the outside.
Including our bodies.
Right. Including our bodies. And this is our reality that we believe is true. Right. And what we're talking about is having such a strong awareness that we are so much more.
Yes.
That we exist and understand all of the dimensions.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so we are making choices, not from our experiences, not from our programming, not from our belief system, and not from our values. We are making choices based on literal downloads from who we are, coming from source.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the game changer.
That's the game changer. That's it, because when you can do that, and I will be the first to say that when it was all start, because people will always ask me, well, you crossed over, you got this connection to collective consciousness.
I didn't cross over.
Right, exactly. You don't have to cross over to do this, folks. Okay, don't. It's like they say on television, don't do this at home. Okay, you don't have to do that. We're at a point now where the energy, and so for people who don't get third dimension, fifth dimension, Gail, you already summed it up nicely. Third dimension is this entire focus we have on our external world, including our bodies. Okay, I gotta stress that. Including our bodies. Why? Because we identify ourselves in the third dimension as Gail, as Franco, as Tom, Dick, and Harry. We identify with this body, and the body is just as much a part of the third dimensional illusion than anything else. Because when you die, when I died and I crossed over and I looked at my body, it was very astral. It was a thin veil. Okay, it wasn't real. It was just an imagery, an echo of what was left of my illusion that I was who I was. I remember looking down, and as I was looking down, I was basically levitating in something that I thought was ground, but even that wasn't really ground. And as I proceeded through the experience, my physicalness disappeared, which they showed me was that's because in this third dimensional world, you identify yourself as this person, when in actuality, this thing we call our bodies has its own consciousness, like everything around us, and it is identifying itself as
Yes.
you.
Yes. And that's why your body knows.
Your body knows. That's why your body is the first line of defense.
Yes.
If your body's not feeling well in any way, shape, or form, it is telling you that you've crossed the barrier of mental anguish, and you are now physically manifesting some type of condition.
And you need to back up.
What's that?
You need to back up.
And you need to back up.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that as much as your body is reflecting you, because it's consciously reflecting you back to you, this world, everything that you see around you is completely your body. It's a second level of your body. Okay. And so when you're having these moments of trials and tribulations, people that you don't want in your life, or anguish and pain, and I'm going to use this word very loosely, okay, but it's important that we do address it. This idea of victimization, okay, when you do that and you become a victim to the reality that you're creating, it becomes an endless loop where you are never ever able to escape. It's one of my favorite songs, Hotel California. You're just there. And you can check out anytime you like, but you never leave.
Right.
Because you can literally check out if you stop looking at your world from the lenses of being a victim. Yes, I get that you had trauma in your life, but you made the point that the past is an illusion that we carry over to the present to shape our future.
Right.
And so if we let go of the past, and we can't, because the past doesn't exist other than what
the file cabinet the folder is in.
It's exactly it. If we let it go, and we can't. Oh, no, I can't let it go, because yes, you can. And the thing that you have to do, back to rule number 1, is you cannot be a victim and call yourself God as well. God is not a victim to anything. God is a creation of everything.
And God is all powerful, as we are.
As we are. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot say, oh yeah, I get I'm God. Oh, but you don't know all of what I show. Here's the reason why people struggle the way that they do, okay? Not just because they inherited a lot of this empathic stuff from their parents, all the sins of the father and the mother, all right? Not just because of the past lives that they've endured, because those line up with the sins of the father and the mother, okay? All right, the reason they're having this moment, I already kind of alluded to it, 2 parts. Number 1, you're expanding the metaphysical world, which I hate to tell you folks, maybe you like this, because it is true. The metaphysical world is the reality, okay? This is the illusion. This is what you go to after you leave this body, okay? Number 1, that's why you're experiencing this. Number 2, the other reason why you're experiencing this right now is because the harder your journey is, the greater your quest will become. In other words, you will become faster because of your trials and tribulation than somebody who had it all, supposedly. They're not going to figure this out as fast as you are. They're not going to figure out your divinity as fast as you did. So you said, before you came down as spirit, you said, sign me up, but I want it hard. I want it really, really hard.
Right.
I want to really, really feel my desires, not just my fears, but the desires of what I'm creating, because I'm helping to expand the universe. And when that universe is ready to show itself, when this reality gets to that point of 5th dimension, all that's going to come rushing in. I would have created this new world that we are now going to live in consciousness. That's going to be unbelievable. And I'm going to get there faster. And who knows, I may be one of the ones who is going to teach people how to remember.
Right.
That's why you do this. That's why you suffer as much as you do. It's not because, the suffering is going to make me better in the eyes of God. No, It's not because, oh, I am not worthy.
It's part of your creation process.
Yes, it's part of what you signed up to do. It's part of your creation process. I love it. It's
Yeah.
why you do this.
Right.
But unless you are looking, going way back to that Taurus, all right, if you're looking only at the physical journey that you're in, you're going to go like this and go, I'm just a victim. When everything is trying to push you and go, look, look over here.
Right. Look at the
This is,
desires that you've created.
look at what you've created. Look at this
Right.
magnificent universe that's about to be given birth to.
Right.
And you had a lot to do with it. Yeah, move over there, because the time now is not for you to focus here anymore. This is a time to celebrate. This is a time of graduation. You're taking all this wonderful work that you've done 1,000,000,000,000 times over in other lifetimes, in other dimensions, in another world, and you are now going to enjoy the fruit of these two worlds coming together. And it's not going to happen 1,000,000 years from now, 100 years, 100,000 years from now. It's happening right now. You may not see it in the physical world because all you're doing is looking at the physical world. But if you could just look at what we're looking at, or what we have seen when people cross over, you're going to go, holy shit, screw that other side. I'm focusing here. And the good news is that whether or not you're ready to do this, the energies that are coming in the next couple of months are now going to force you. It's kind of like inducing the labor. It's going to
I love
force
that.
you. It's going to force you to do it now. You're going to have to push, and you're going to have to give birth to that new reality.
And it's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be,
and you know, let's close, because Franco, we could go on and on, but
I know
I do want to close it out in this process, in this potentially painful process for some people. Remember the pains that you've gone through before and the beauty that came out of it. Right? You know,
perfect.
There's stuff that I've gone through in my life, that you've gone through in your life, and my listeners have gone through in their life, that's pretty crappy. But when I look back, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I know that that's, a metaphor, and it's overused, but it is a fact.
Yeah.
If I hadn't felt the pain, I wouldn't feel the joy.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. You would never be able to appreciate the joy that is, you might feel it, but the beauty and the appreciation and the deliciousness of that experience would never be the same.
Not the
same.
It
would never be the same. And so, yeah, you summed that up beautifully. And I hope that our conversation here, as much as it was like a cafe conversation, I hope that they resonate with some. I know they will, actually, and just constantly surrender yourself to that, because there is a voice, your voice, the inner child in you that we talked about before we went on. That voice is ready. It's not hurt, people. Whatever you hear, that inner child has never been hurt. It's been sitting there deliciously waiting for you to come back home
and play.
I love that you keep saying that, because you are the cherub. You are the master cherub. You know how to play.
Oh my God, yes.
Play.
That's the only reason that we're here. I'm sorry. I want to go out and pick blueberries, but there are no more blueberries around. So if people wanted to get in touch with you, Franco, how would they do that?
Okay, so I really encourage people. I'm not saying this to sell books. I really encourage people to read the book, The Closet Spiritualist. You can buy it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Lulu, which is my press company. Read it. It's a manual, and I always tell people, read it as a manual of what not to do. Okay. Okay, because I want you to realize that my trip was no different than yours. And then read the first half is that, and the second half is all of the things that started opening up to me, and you're going to relate to it. Secondly, though, somewhere around, so right, if they want to connect with me, and I'm happy to do so, love to hear from you. It's info@theclosetspiritualist.com. Now, after about, I'm hoping the first week in November, I will have my site up, and you can go to www.theclosetspiritualist.com. Okay. And you'll see me there. You'll see my book there. You'll see how to reach out to me. And slowly but surely, I'll be putting things on there that people can really work with and do stuff with. So, but that's the best way to reach me right now. I do want to say I am getting, and I'm not tooting my horn here because I'm going to share it with you when it gets done. My book and my life is being there's going to be a documentary on it. And
Yes, yes.
we're going to film that in the next couple of weeks. I'm so excited about it because it's going to be my first real chance to say to the world what you and I just went through in the last hour or so. And I've just been blessed and fortunate and really humble about it because it came out of nowhere, and I'm really excited. So when that happens, I'll give you the link to it so people can see the story.
Oh my God, yes, I'll be promoting it big time. So
Thank you.
everybody, this is Gail Craft from the Empowering Process podcast. If there is something in here that triggered you and maybe you want to know more about it, do put a comment. Franco and I will probably get together and cover it. If you know someone who could maybe grow or learn from it, do share this with people. And as always, subscribe and like and let us know that you're watching. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.